All right, welcome to, I guess, the first, it's technically the second episode, but the first episode of the new Push to Pass podcast. We will have these after every IndyCar race this year, and as well probably before the Indy 500 in preparation. So anyway, this gentleman to my left, I believe, is Matt Faust. I've known Matt, God, how long have I known you?
I'd say, I think it's like 12 years.
12 years. That. We've known each other about 12 years. We go to the Indy 5. That's where we really developed the friendship, was going to the Indy 500 every year. And obviously we have a bunch of mutual friends. But Matt, go ahead and tell the people about yourself, as you have not been on this channel before.
Yeah. Happy to be here. Thanks for having me. Looking forward to co-hosting the show. I mean, without being said, obviously huge IndyCar fan, go to the Indy 500 every year. I'm from Pennsylvania, so used to go to the Pocono races. I went to a few of those, and then obviously Watkins Glen as well, pretty close to my area. So big IndyCar fan. I'm not going to claim to be a huge historian or anything like that, but I definitely hold drivers that I view very critically, and happy to be a part of it. Basically on my side, I make content as well. If you know Joe Donahue, we both covered the Pennsylvania sprint car scene. So that's really my background. So part-time IndyCar critic and full-time sprint car critic. This is, I guess, the best way to put it.
Yeah. And if you're into sprint car racing, which you should be, it's great stuff. If you are into sprint car racing, you can go check out Matt's channel. It'll be in the description. So be sure to go subscribe and show Matt some love if you haven't already. All right, we are here today because IndyCar is starting on Sunday. Well, I guess technically it's starting on Friday, but or I guess I can't remember what day I'm going to put this up. So it's either today or it was yesterday or around then. But yeah, so we're just going to preview the season and just go from there. I don't know. I don't know how seriously like regimented this is going to be or whatever, but we're just going to jump right into it, I guess. All right. Meyer-Shank. I think you wanted to talk about Meyer-Shank.
Yeah. So like the two teams that I've thought about over the offseason is Meyer-Shank and AJ Foyt Racing. Obviously, we both have the alliances, Shank with Ganassi, Foyt with Penske. Last year, we saw that they could both compete. They had cars. I think this year with Foyt, we see that they have two competitive drivers. No offense to Stingray Rob, but I mean, David Malukas is a higher caliber driver. That's just the way it is. The numbers show that. So, and Santino finished 9th in the points last year. So now they have two competitive drivers. It'll be interesting to see how they step it up. They've shown speed at the 500. Stingray led a lot of laps. Santino did the year before, kind of struggled throughout the 500 this year, but still was up there fighting in the top 5 for most of the race. So it'll be interesting to see how their consistency really comes together for a whole championship. Santino, I think last year in 9th, is overperforming in that car, but we'll have to see if they take that next step. And I think same thing with Shank. I mean, both cars are capable of being in the top 10 of the points. So it's just the same consistency thing with Foyt and Shank that I think we need to see out of them.
Yeah, with Foyt, it's interesting because I remember the talking point came up a bunch last year that, Penske's aligned with them, but they're getting the most out of it. AJ Foyt's not getting much out of it at all. And I turned around and pointed out, I'm like, whoa, yeah, but that's not really true because Santino's been killing it this year. So I agree with your sentiment that they should theoretically be, I don't know, they could be the third best team, possibly. Well, they could if McLaren
there
kind
isn't
of
a solid
implodes.
third best team yet.
Yeah,
and that's something we can talk about later. Agreed.
Yeah, they could be. I mean, that would be kind of a wild. I mean, it'd be a long shot, I think, but it's feasible. Now, Meyer-Shank is interesting to me because they had a whole bunch of stuff happen with the 60 car last year, but with Felix, it was he could qualify ridiculously well, and he did on numerous occasions, and just lost a bunch of spots. Now, it makes you wonder who the issue is there more. Is it Felix? Probably not, would be my guess. It's probably down to car setup and race strategy and stuff. So
Okay.
can they get a handle on race setup? That's essentially the big question there.
Yeah, agreed. It's just they have speed, and that's exactly. I'm glad you mentioned that because Felix was incredibly fast in the beginning of the year, qualifying and throughout the year, and he's a good qualifier, so that doesn't come as a surprise. But even when he was on Ganassi, he showed that he could qualify well and finish well. So it's just going to be interesting to see how that team. The consistency isn't there. Whether it's strategy, setup, I don't know. Obviously we don't know that very well. We don't know the internal things, but. One thing that Marcus Armstrong had talked about that I've seen is he's very impressed by the work ethic. They say that guys are getting in the shop at 6:45 every morning, and that is a sign of a team that you need to watch out for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. All right. Go ahead and move on to our next topic. Dale Coyne Racing added Rinus VeeKay in the offseason. Just how, what do we think about them going forward? Because Dale Coyne they've been all over the map, but historically they're pretty solid. And they come up, and Dale Coyne calls some crazy strategies, and they cheat sometimes. But what do we think their potential might be?
This is, I think, probably their most stable driver lineup. I don't know too much about Rinus's funding, but I think that we have two drivers. We know Jacob Abel has all the funding in the world. He'll be driving every race in that car, right? And that's no knock on him. He's going to be in there. Rinus, I believe, will be in there. I think he's a high profile enough driver that'll be driving every race. Not 100% on that. So we have two guys that will be able to race the whole year, and we haven't seen that for Dale Coyne for a little bit. Well, I guess Malukas and Stingray, but two competitive drivers. I feel like Rinus, obviously a race winner. That's something I forget a lot, that he did win a race, Indy road course, how much people care about it. Still won a championship race. So
yeah,
Rinus is competitive. He's good at the 500. Dale Coyne has some strong runs at the 500 every now and then, struggled last year, but having two guys that will be able to drive the entirety of the year, I think will be able to speak volumes to Dale Coyne's potential.
Yeah. And it's interesting to me with the whole Rinus thing, because he was when ECR had their shit together. I'm just gonna say it.
Yeah.
When ECR had their shit together, he was solid. Like you said, he won. He ran really well, and I think 3 Indy 500s straight.
Correct. Yeah.
So, and obviously ECR is known for being good at the Indy 500 and not necessarily known for being great everywhere else, but. Yeah, I don't see. I see that being a good combination, realistically, as long as the right things happen. I don't know. That's kind of a cop-out way to put it, but
yeah, I mean that's racing at the end of the day. All the dominoes have to fall your way. But are we saying they're probably going to win races? Probably not. Could they? Maybe.
Would we be shocked? No. I would.
No. No offense to Jacob Abel, I would be a little shocked if he won a race in his first year. But, yeah. I mean, he had a great Indy next year. I mean, he had 11 top fives in 14 races. So obviously he has a good resume, but seeing people come from Indy next into IndyCar, it takes a little bit to get used to naturally. You see that in any sport, any racing discipline. But Rinus, he's going to come back with a vengeance. I feel like nobody expected him. Seemed like him and ECR were solid, and that was going to be a combination that stayed together. Like you said, he was their best driver when they had their shit together, and they've kind of fallen off. So he's going to be coming back with a vengeance. He's going to be hungry. So be interesting to see, because Dale Coyne loves having ambitious drivers. So I'm excited for that. I hope we see just other cars that we haven't seen be good for a while get up there and fight for some top fives.
Yeah, especially with Dale Coyne Racing, because they haven't been super competitive since Board A left. So it's been about 5 years now, that was 6 years ago.
It's been a while.
Yeah.
It's been a while.
That was pre whatever the hell happened in 2020.
Yeah, no idea. Something happened that year. But.
Yeah. So jumping on, we mentioned possibly a one team maybe being the third best team in the league or in the series. Mm-hmm. But we'll talk about the team that has been the third best team recently, McLaren. Is this a make or break year for them?
So I think we've heard about how they're evaluating their involvement in the series, and I don't think they're going to leave the series per se. I mean, they've just moved into a new shop. They have just taken sole ownership of the team, so I don't know if they'll leave. They're leaving. They could potentially downscale, And what does that look like for like a Nolan Siegel or a Christian Lundgaard in the future? I mean, it's make or break years for them as well. Pato's shown that he can overperform and outdrive anything he's in, right? That's what he can do. He'll be out there first practice, car isn't even perfect yet, and he'll run the fastest lap. Yeah. That's just who he is. Lundgaard obviously kind of carried the Ray Hall team the past few years. They have some good tracks that, they're pretty decent at, and he was able to perform well, but this is a big jump for them. We've seen Pato be well. Who's going to be that next driver that can come up and make them more competitive and show them as a solid front?
Yeah, I'm curious too. If they did want to downsize, it feels like Siegel has the advantage. His family outright bought that ride in the middle of the year last year. So you would think, I don't know what the backing is for a guy like Christian Lundgaard. I think it's less than average. I really don't know, actually.
I'm not sure. I mean, obviously he's a paid driver to be in there. So he has to prove himself at the end of the day. And I guess I'll throw it in there. I'm going to be extremely critical of Christian Lundgaard. I told Seth before this because I am an Alexander Rossi fan. So I still feel like Rossi should be there for when McLaren really has everything together, because they've been working. They've been in the old Schmidt-Peterson shop and everything. There's a lot of turnover and things going on. They got rid of Gavin Ward. So it'll be interesting to see what this team can do. I mean, Pato was up there, I think, 5th in the championship last year. Could have finished 2nd, just depending how things fall at the end of the year. And he's won races. It's just the consistency to win a championship and fight against the Ganassis and the Penske's.
Yeah, and as we've seen from the guy that keeps winning all these championships, is you have to be utterly consistent. We'll get more into that here in a minute. But back to another team that's been up and down and on the fritz. I say on the fritz. It used to be 10 years ago a perennial title contender, and now we kind of only hear about them in passing as far as title contention goes, I think. I mean, obviously, I'm talking about Andretti. Herta obviously closed the year last year very strong and wound up 2nd in points, but he wasn't really a title contender realistically. And that really only happened because Will Power had issues at the end at Nashville. So I don't know. What do we think? Can they get over that hump? Can they get back into title contention?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's the same thing with McLaren. It's just the consistency at the end of the day. Herta, I mean, there's a few Indy 500s. The first thing I think about, I mean, he started 13th, 14th in the grid and drove his way up and had that spin. It's just, can they put together, the whole thing with Herta is just, can he put a whole race together, a whole season together? He's finished in the top 3 twice. I want to say in 2020 finished 2nd as well, but don't quote me on that. So he can put together good years, but he was never really fighting for the championship in those years.
Yeah.
So, and Andretti as a whole, Kirkwood's solid. Ericsson was disappointing last year. I mean, I didn't pay much attention to Ericsson. When I saw how far he was in the championship, like, I didn't even realize, I can't remember a race other than the drama with the Indy 500 where I was really even looking at him.
Yeah. I kind of forgot he was there most of the time. I think he had that one podium at Detroit, but outside of that, other than him wrecking on lap 1 at the Indy 500, I kind of forgot he existed. Is one of those things. Now, Herta's interesting to me because I've kind of gone back and forth over the years with how I feel about Colton Herta. I've kind of leaned to the side of him being one of the more overrated drivers in the series. And it's not due to talent at all. Like, you can tell the man can wheel the hell out of a race car. That's apparent. My issue with Herta has always been he's in year 7, 6, and he doesn't seem like he's progressed that much as a driver. I don't know. Like, he's in a lot of ways, he drives the same way he did when he was a rookie.
I would agree. It seems like he gets a little in over his head, but last year I feel like was one of his more complete years in my eyes. Certain things don't fall your way in racing, and I agree. I didn't consider him to be a part of the championship fight, and then I look after he wins Nashville, he finished 2nd. But you knew he wasn't in contention. He wasn't even in the conversation coming into the last race. Obviously, it was Power and Palou. Yeah. But I think last year he proved a lot to me because I'm very critical on him as well. And I was very impressed to see the results he put together. I think he had 2 wins last year, Toronto and Nashville. solid. Two different racetracks. Obviously, Andretti's really good at Long Beach, Toronto, all the street courses. That's where they're strong at. But yeah, I don't want to say it's make or break and keep saying that, but I mean, Herta, definitely the momentum's there, and it seems like he's starting to prove himself, that he's matured as a driver. But seeing him put together seasons together, putting together a whole season, and then just not falling off for a couple of years is something that we're going to have to see this year.
Now, how much of his performance this year, how much of that affects whether or not he gets consideration for the Cadillac ride in F1?
From the things that I've heard, he knows who to talk to and who to network with. So he'll have the money behind him if he wants to go to F1, and if the FIA allows it. I mean, that's the big thing. But yeah. I mean, whenever he won a couple races, I think 2021, he started off the year winning at St. Pete, and everyone's like, he's going to F1, blah, 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 and then didn't really win a race for a while. So yeah, I mean, that's definitely at play for him. I think that pressure's there. He's got to show himself as a more complete driver and just even compare himself to an Alex Blow, because right now I don't put him in the same tier as Alex Blow, which we'll get into.
Yeah, I mean, I did mention he drives a lot of the times it kind of looks like he's still a rookie out there in certain ways. But again, he was a rookie 6 years ago. He was 18, so he's 24 years old. A lot of time still to develop your racecraft at that point. So yeah, it'll be an interesting thing to keep an eye on as the season goes on, because I'm really curious. As much as it would suck to lose a guy like that in the IndyCar series, it would be great to get a guy like that into Formula One and kind of have our guy, sort of.
Agreed.
Even if you're not a Colton Herta fan, you can still be a Colton Herta fan when he goes over there for sure. But all right. So the big dog, Alex Palou. Who's going to challenge him this year? We've seen some guys challenge him, but no one's really come close except the year that he was getting sued left and right.
I mean, to me, I think the one thing that isn't talked about as much last year is Scott McLaughlin could have potentially won the championship if that DQ in St. Pete didn't happen. Yeah. I mean, he ran great all year. Obviously won the pole for the biggest race of the year, and then had some issues mechanically during the race. Still posted a good result. He seems like he's learning the ovals. We saw in the beginning of Will Power's career was the same thing, the 2012 championship that Ryan Hunter-Reay won. Yep. Will Power went in with a big lead, and then the rest of the races were ovals, and it just dropped off. And Scott McLaughlin, I feel like, is kind of turning his oval turning his oval competitiveness a different direction. Yeah. So Scott McLaughlin's kind of my pick. I think he's a funny guy too, so I'm a little biased there. And he drives a Penske car, so it's an obvious pick as well. So that's someone who I could consider to fight for him. He seems like he's becoming a more complete driver in an IndyCar. Yeah,
that was kind of my thought too, to be honest, was Scott McLaughlin. For all the reasons you mentioned. I'm really curious though if a guy like Joseph Newgarden is going to find a way to capture the magic again, because he was a world beater there for a few years, and then he wins races. He does win a lot of races.
Competitive. Yep.
Very competitive, but it's kind of the same as it's similar in ways to the issues Scott McLaughlin and Will Power had early in their careers, but opposite. Newgarden is obviously the oval master. I mean, I guess that's fair to say right now. He's the top dog on ovals. But outside of a cheated up win at St. Petersburg last year, he hasn't done anything on road courses in 2-3 years. Can't remember exactly. At least 2, maybe 3. Yep. It's been a while. So if they can figure out how to be competitive and not have races like Mid-Ohio where they should have finished like 7th or 8th to wound up 2 laps down 25th. I could see them making a challenge. I just don't see them. My only issue with any of the Penske cars, I guess that goes for Will Power too, even though Will Power was more consistently competitive than Joseph was last year. But I guess the only issue I see out of the Penske guys is they kind of fall into that same inconsistent thing that everyone else has a problem with, except apparently Scott Dixon and Alex Palou. We'll get into Scott Dixon here in a minute.
Sure.
But so I'm just curious because Penske's so just the way the Penske organization is, it's so odd that they've been like that for a few years. Obviously, Will won a couple of years ago in the title, but outside of that, ever since Penske bought the series, it's kind of been like that, I feel.
I mean, it's been, I think if this goes back to the main point of the title that we're talking about here is who can stop Alex Palou. Alex Palou is just absolutely exceptional. I do not know his lowest result of this past year, but I know in 2023, it was 8th place. So
I know he did crash in one of the Iowa races.
He did have an issue there.
Yeah, so
correct. And I feel like he had an issue at Milwaukee, right? At one point, I think he still finished the race, but I think he had an issue in race 2 at Milwaukee. Nonetheless, I mean, he's just a beast. I mean, Laguna Seca last year, he was on black tires on a different strategy and basically had to go fast enough to like warrant another pit stop. And he just went out and just gained that time on track so that he can make another pit stop and stay ahead. Yeah. I mean, the guy is unreal. The tire master, that's what it comes down to. I mean, Scott Dixon, very, very similar to him, but even then, he just looks even more dominant than Scott Dixon did a few years prior. So, which is harsh to say because, I mean, Scott Dixon is obviously incredible and one of the most dominant drivers, the Iceman. So, but Alex Palou is just incredible. And it's showing that a top organization like Penske, they're still having good years and they're fine and probably could win championships in other seasons if Alex Palou wasn't there. I mean, that's just the cold hard truth.
I mean, that's definitely the way it feels as a fan. It almost gets boring, like a little bit watching it, just because the last 2 years at the end of the season, I'm like, Palou's going to win. Like it doesn't matter. Now, I'm not saying don't watch. Obviously, definitely watch. It'll still be good stuff. But yeah, I feel like the other guys, those 4 are really the ones that have the opportunity. But if Scott McLaughlin, honestly, if Scott McLaughlin could put a season like he did last year, not get into penalty trouble, which is not his fault, obviously, but I definitely think he could be the guy because he is that caliber driver. He's finally fully comfortable in an IndyCar. It definitely appears like he's finally fully comfortable in an IndyCar. And we've seen, and a lot of you that subscribe to this channel are Shane Van Gisbergen fans. So y'all have all seen Scott McLaughlin do his thing, and you know how good he is. So I think he's definitely the top dog outside of to take the throne away. I think that's likely.
Agreed.
But we could get Scott Dixon to come back, like old school Scott Dixon. He could come back. They don't even have to have the fastest car ever.
No.
They don't have to have the fastest car in any race. And
they don't even need to have enough fuel left in the car. He'll get it home somehow.
I don't think they put any fuel in the car. I think it never has fuel in it.
Just incredible. I mean, the Long Beach race last year is probably one of the most incredible things I watched. I mean, he had to hit a ridiculous number. And it's like, okay, but he's not going to be able to hold him off on the last lap and then uses all his push to pass on the last lap. It's just, what? I mean,
and did the cool down lap.
Yeah, I was just about and hit the cool down lap. It's just, I mean, generational talent. I mean, he's the fuel master. This is nothing new. So it's really, I mean, he had a few mid-Ohio. His hybrid didn't even work. So that's a race where things fell off for him.
Yeah.
So, some bad luck, but that's racing at the end of the day. The same things could happen to Alex Palou. It just seems like in 2023, he can just win 4 out of 5 races. In a row. Or he won 4 in a row. I think he won 5 out of 6 races. So it just, Scott Dixon is a guy who's capable of doing that, but his biggest competitor is his teammate. So it's an interesting dynamic to see. I mean, 2 of the best drivers that we've seen in recent history going at it like this. Yeah.
I mean, we gotta appreciate it now while it lasts, because I mean, Scott's not getting any younger. He won't be around forever. So this is as close to as it can be to 2 guys that are this good in their prime. Obviously, Scott is probably a few years past his prime, but it's so close that it's still worth appreciating.
He doesn't drive a day like he's a day over 25. He's incredible.
Yeah. Well, all right. So, got that. You're an Alexander Rossi fan, you mentioned.
Yes, sir.
What do we think about Ed Carpenter Racing? They have been, I think we mentioned it a minute ago, but they've been in the dumps probably for a couple of years.
Yep.
I think that's a good way of putting it. Alex has been unceremoniously booted from his Arrow McLaren ride. I say that. I think they mutually decided or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah.
But he's the new big dog there. What do we think? What are we thinking? Indy 500 win number 2?
I hope so, man. After last year, I mean, he's leading the race with 10 to go and finishes 4th. That's a tough pill to swallow. But overall for Ed Carpenter, I mean, first things first, I don't know if you heard, I listened to Off Track and was trying to find out some things about the test. It was an absolutely abysmal test. They ran into issue after issue at Sebring. So not a great start. But from what I've heard, the new funding has been great. It's been one of the better off seasons. They've been able to get more equipment, more people. So I think it's one of those things, again, that we talk about where it's an adjustment year for them, like we've seen with McLaren. Yeah. You know, there's trying to grow. You know, they have Rossi and Rasmussen for a few years, and Christian Rasmussen was a great driver. He started off the year at Barber, I think he spun out 2 or 3 times. So it's like, what's this rookie doing?
Yeah.
Towards the end of the year, looked pretty competitive. And the Indy 500, he impressed me as well. I believe he finished in the top 10.
Yeah.
There was a guy, every lap he went by, I'm like, he's going to wreck. And then he just kept going. And I'm like, all right, this guy's pretty talented, or just extremely lucky. So I think it's a good, if anything, I think Christian Rasmussen is going to benefit the most from this, because while the team's growing and Alexander Rossi may be kind of, you know, slipping away and maybe frustrated with not having a ride that's as competitive as it used to be, Rasmussen's going to be learning as much as he can from a guy who used to fight for championships in cars that were not the best on the grid. You know, Andretti was better back in the day when he drove there, but they weren't better than the people that were winning the championships, like the Joseph Newgardens and the Scott Dixons. So
yeah,
it'll be interesting to see. Last time that Ed Carpenter had a guy who was able to win a championship was Joseph Newgarden. Granted, it was before he was winning championships. They were able to win races. So
yeah,
and they have more funding. Back then they had the Fuzzy sponsorship. Now they have the Splenda Java House sponsorship. So it's one of those years where I think it's going to be frustrating for them, but we could see the light at the end of the tunnel for this team.
Yeah, and it's interesting you mentioned the Newgarden back in the day. Obviously, they won, I believe, 3 races with Joseph in 2 years, which for where they were at that time it was pretty impressive. And then they carried that momentum for a handful of years. I mean, Ed almost won the Indy 500 in 18.
Correct.
VK damn near could have won it in, what year was that? 21?
21, I believe. I mean, he had a lot of good years where he was running up front, and then like, you know, something happens in pit lane or something like that. But
yeah. And then obviously 21 was the year they won the 21 was the year they won the GP.
I believe so. Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, if it, like you said, well, yeah, like you said, they had funding back then. They lost a bit of it now. Now they got it back. I am not going to expect them to set the world on fire, figurative or relatively to where we would expect them, but they could definitely be a team that kind of turns on toward the end of the season after they get it rolling a little bit more, and then we could see them have some serious momentum heading into 26.
Agreed. Yeah, I think it's a growth year at this point. I don't expect them to be worse, but I don't expect them to make any huge jumps in the points. I mean, Renus was 13th in the points last year. I'd expect Rossi. I mean, I want him to finish in the top 10. I want him to win the championship. That'd be ideal. But I don't think from what I've heard with the testing so far, I think they've got some speed bumps to get over first.
Yeah. Yep. All right. IndyCar had we'll go with the schedule first. Schedule stayed fairly the same, as I think it's, other than adding thermal as a points race, I'm pretty sure it's like exactly the same, but more condensed. Yep. Except, well, we still have the month gap, month and 5 week gap between race 1 and 2, which is not ideal. And then another couple week gap, I think, between that and the next race.
Yeah, still some gaps in the schedule, but I mean, adding thermal 2 weeks after St. Pete definitely helps. I mean, it was last year, but it wasn't the points race. It kind of felt weird and gimmicky, but we have a championship race. We have championship things on the line for this race, and No, I'm glad they tested it out at Thermal and figured it out and added to the schedule. That's very nice. I'm okay with that. But like, where is Richmond? Like, I don't understand. I mean, I don't know. I'm not in the corporate meetings. Penske Entertainment, where is Richmond? It was on the schedule in 2020, and then some stuff happened. I don't remember. I didn't look at the news that year, but some things happened and it got canceled, and we never heard anything about it. Where's Richmond? I'm begging you. That's not even that close of a drive. I could sit here and beg for Pocono or Watkins Glen. I'll drive to Richmond, man. Just bring it back. We love the oval racing. That's one thing. Iowa last year obviously wasn't the best race, but we saw at Gateway and Milwaukee. Those were good tracks. And maybe they figured some things out with the tires there. Bring Richmond back.
Yes.
A Richmond race under the lights. That's all I'm asking for. That's all I'm asking for. Until I
Richmond's,
ask for the next thing.
This is true. But you got to give me the one thing before I start asking for the next thing. Unless you don't, and then I'll start asking for the new thing and the old thing.
Exactly.
But yeah. And Richmond's pavement is wore all to hell. So gimme. Well, also it would work out too, because they cut one of the NASCAR races. So we have this empty void in the spring now where there's no Richmond. Perfect timing. Bring it back. Saturday night race. You probably pack the place out.
Nice little middle of April race at Richmond Saturday night. Oh,
be beautiful.
Be great.
It would be
fantastic.
Awesome. Yep.
That's all I'm asking for, IndyCar.
I will be there as soon as you announce it. I will buy tickets.
Exactly. We will be pre-ordering tickets.
Yes.
You got them.
So just I'm throwing that out there into ether. If someone sees this, hey, well, maybe we can ask David to ask Doug Bowles if he could get that done for us.
Or if Connor Daly's live streaming, I'll just slide it in there and be like, hey, can you talk to Doug for me?
We need Richmond now.
We need it.
And that's the thing too with the all right, so now I'm gonna pivot to Fox, but it's also about the schedule. But obviously we got Fox Sports this year. And which is not what I thought how I thought I would feel when they announced it at all.
Same.
But we have a lot of these open dates, especially early in the season. And my guess is that we probably only can get, I don't know how the contract's written, but my guess is that there's 17 mainstream Fox dates secured. Would be my guess. I don't know. I would imagine if we added some in the future, those would have to go to FS1. I think that would still be better than not having racing for a month at a time at any point. I don't think we should have more than 1 week off consecutively. Maybe the season's only 5 months long.
Correct.
So we should really only have maybe 4 weeks total off.
That'd be nice.
Yeah. Because people lose interest.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard. It used to be, I mean, we ran a race in September and didn't race till November. So they fixed that. Yeah. But I mean, we start relatively the latest and we end by far the earliest. I mean, we have the longest off season. So if we're going to have a condensed schedule, can we at least just get some more races in there? Or, we have a doubleheader for Iowa. We could change that. And then middle of April, like we said, or towards the end of April, in between Barber and Long Beach, we could have Richmond. There you go. There's 17 races, and you're filling up the gaps. These doubleheader weekends, the second race is always more boring because the teams figure out what they need to do. That wasn't the case for Iowa race 2 last year, but it was hard to be more boring than the first one. So no, that doesn't
those
really
races were those races were super disappointing.
That was very upsetting. I was very excited to see the hybrid on an oval. I was at the beach with my family, like, let's watch Saturday night IndyCar. And I'm like, never mind, let's go swim in the pool. Like, this is horrible.
Yeah, but I think I started scrolling on my phone after about lap 20. I was like, this is not going to get any better. So
you didn't miss anything.
No, I did not. But yeah, I agree with everything you said.
But Fox, very happy. I feel like a lot of people have talked about it and everything. Obviously, we had 3 Super Bowl commercials. That was awesome.
Yeah.
That was great. They're showing that they're serious. I'm excited to see the broadcast. I know there's some skepticism of the graphics and the cartoon graphics. To be fair, that's not a NASCAR on Fox thing. That is an all across Fox thing. Like that's what they do for every sport. So I think that's just where they're at, their graphics now. In a couple of years, they'll change it. So it's one of those things. Yeah, I'm not thrilled about it. I think the cartoons look a little weird, but that's Fox's brand right now. That's what they do.
Yeah, I think we'll get over that. I don't think it's that big of a deal. I'm really excited. I'm really happy we brought James Hinchcliffe and Townsend Bell back. I think I said that is the first thing I said was it's imperative that they get these two back. I didn't have an opinion on who needed to do play-by-play at that point, but I definitely knew that that's what needed to happen. And luckily, they also agreed because they brought him back. And I think that's huge. They already have that chemistry, and it will help Will Buxton get in. Now, obviously, Will Buxton is a fan of IndyCar and a lot of motorsports. He's just an overall racing fan. He's obviously huge on the F1 side. People know who he is, which is good. A random person who's seen Drive to Survive once or twice probably would recognize him if they tuned in.
Yes.
So that's also good. I don't know. The actual broadcast, like the TV, the actual video feed will be still done by IMS Productions, which is a plus because Fox doesn't know what they're doing in that regard.
Yeah.
Like even, I don't know. Is there a single series that Fox runs that like actually is really good? Like football sucks. I think it does. I don't think NFL on Fox is very good. NASCAR on Fox is not very good.
Yeah, they're definitely on the struggle right now. I do like Greg Olson for the NFL, but we're not going to dig too far into the NFL right now.
Yeah. We get enough NFL every other time.
Yeah, exactly. Everybody else is talking about the NFL. We don't need to do that. We can talk about strictly Indy cars.
Yes. Even though I am wearing Carolina Panthers gear. So.
That's the one. Yeah. Nothing about the NFL though.
Nothing.
And the one thing with IndyCar broadcasting, the way they do it with IMS Productions is that, and bringing back Townsend and James, is that there are going to be a lot of things that are the same, and that's very good. And I think Fox is just there to add to it, and they've shown that the things that they've done so far are great. At the end of the day, we just need the racing to be good. We need to put on a good product. That's what's most important. But I just don't see how Fox can mess this up right now. There's a lot of good synergy behind what's going on right now. The drivers are excited. The fans are excited. We have other people that are looking into the sport. I mean, Tom Brady knows what IndyCar is. That's confirmed. I brought up NFL again. My bad. But I mean, that's cool.
It is Fox related, so it's okay.
It's Fox related, and Fox is just. I don't see how they can mess this up at the end of the day. Is it possible? Sure, but everything's going the right way. 3 commercials that they've made are commercials we have not seen anything like that in years. So very excited to see how this turns out. Race 1, I'll be watching all the sessions if I can, and really curious to see what Fox will provide, and obviously results wise, what they'll look like at the end of the week.
Yeah, and I'm really interested too in this aspect. 2 races into the NASCAR season, I don't know. We've only had a couple full screen commercial breaks. I think there were maybe a handful for Daytona, and I don't even remember if there were any for Atlanta. I feel like there might have not been during green flag racing. Let me clarify. So they didn't pay that relatively compared to a lot of other things. They did not pay that much for IndyCar. It was double what NBC was giving them. So great for IndyCar. But I'm really hoping we have minimal commercial breaks. And when we do, it's side by side. I think NBC did that, but I'm really curious.
They did a lot of side by side. Yep.
But they did do most of the races on NBCSN. So
a few got sent to Peacock last year too.
That's true. Yeah.
I think the last race of the year was Peacock exclusive. Maybe not the last race of the year, but
Toronto was Peacock exclusive.
I think Milwaukee might have been as well. One of the Milwaukee races. So,
was it?
Yeah. I mean, when a company's on the way out like that, they're just going to slide some stuff by. It's the end of the contract. They know they're not coming back. So,
yeah.
I mean, we have 17 races on Network Fox. I mean, that's just incredible. That's been talked about by a lot of people, but that's huge. We have Indy Next broadcasts on FS2 or FS1. I mean, unheard of attention for IndyCar.
Yeah. I believe most of them are going to be on FS1.
Even better. Even better. I was trying to downplay Indy Next. That's by Firestone. Sorry. Indy Next by Firestone.
Yes.
Yep, my bad.
Yeah. So because I remember I watched a decent amount of Indy Next back when it was Indy Lights used to be on, they used to broadcast races on YouTube, except for, I guess, the Freedom 100 was on NBCSN. But I used to tune into those all the time when they were on YouTube because they were just streaming. They were free. I'm right there. I'm going to watch it. And then for years, them being on Peacock only, I didn't watch. I think I watched one race, and that was the one where Jamie Chadwick got pole because I was like, well, let's see what happens here.
Yeah, fair enough.
So, I mean, I guess I don't have an excuse not to now. I mean, we're doing this show. I guess I need to watch Indy Next coverage now.
Yeah, we'll have a little Indy Next corner. We'll talk about it. By Firestone.
By Firestone.
Yes.
Wait, no, they don't pay us. So
They don't. Yeah,
well,
we can't.
I'm not anti-Firestone, but I'm not going to shill for Firestone unless they like pay us.
Yeah, which
I'll wear a hat. Or
I'll buy the hat. I guess if you pay me. If you pay me to wear the hat, I'll buy it. Got it.
That doesn't even make any sense, but I understand at the same time.
Yeah, it doesn't. But Indy Next by Firestone. Don't sue me.
Or do. I don't care. Fuck you.
But yeah, I mean, it can be said again and again. Very excited for Fox. I think it's a great thing for the series. We'll see.
Yeah. I guess the only other thing I can think to talk about is, well, do we want to get into the possibility of the new car in a couple of years?
Maybe we'll dig into that in the future because I'll be honest, I haven't looked into too much yet, and there isn't much out for it. So
this is true.
Yeah, that's definitely something to keep on the back burner, though.
Yeah. I guess I'll say the only thing is I'm hoping we get to that point without losing too much steam. That's basically the only thing I got for that. If we can just keep this momentum up, add that new car in, racing will be even better. All right. Who do we think's winning the championship?
Oh, man, I wasn't ready for this question. I feel like I can't say Alex Blow, so I'm not going to say Alex Blow.
I mean, you can say Alex Blow.
I can, but that's just a cheap way out. Like, it's obvious. Like,
it is.
Obviously, he's going to win the championship. Obviously, that's a good pick. I'm going to go. I'm going to go with an oddball pick here.
Pick up.
I'm going to say. No, I'm just going to say Scott McLaughlin. I think it's the Thirsty Threes year.
Yeah. I basically agree with you, but I'm also not going to say Alex Blow, and I'm going to pick someone else. I'm going to pick Scott Dixon to get number 7.
Good choice. Good choice.
It would be pretty cool to see if I'm being honest.
Yeah, it's gotten to the point where I like seeing Alex Blow win. It's like, wait, I missed when Dixon did this. Like,
I miss being mad that Dixon won. Can I have that back, please?
Exactly. Yep. That's how I've been feeling lately.
Yep. We're nostalgic.
Yes.
It's weird how that happens.
Yeah, it's like Jimmy Johnson, man. It's the same thing.
It's exactly like Jimmy Johnson.
It's all like
Wait, were
that.
you a Jimmy Johnson fan, though?
No.
Oh, okay. Anyway. All right. Who do we think wins St. Pete?
Oh, now this is a good one. I'm gonna go oddball here. Gonna be a little different. I'm gonna say Kyle Kirkwood, which I don't think is that much of a stretch, but Andretti's really good at street courses, and I don't want to say Colton Herta. I just feel like Kyle Kirkwood didn't do as much as he wanted to last year. There you go, Kyle.
Yeah. All right, I'm gonna go with Scott McLaughlin.
Okay,
I think he's
won there before. That's a good.
He
pick.
has, and I think if he wins this week, I think that's going to be the warning shot to everybody in the paddock. I think.
Yeah.
So
hey, that helps out my guess. So I appreciate you.
It's very true. So, all right, I guess that's all we got for this one. If you enjoyed this, let us know. If you didn't, let me know. I like hearing about it. It'll get better. This is the first time we're doing this, so it'll get better. But be sure to tune in to St. Pete, and then hopefully on Tuesday, I think we'll try and have this out for you guys. But thank you for watching. If you did, No, you did not watch it. You're listening to this part right
If you're
now.
this far, you definitely watched.
Yeah, unless you skip. If you skipped to this part just to hear me say this, then don't comment. I don't want to hear.
I hope your pillow is warm on both sides tonight.
That is messed up. But again, I agree. So, we'll see y'all when we see you.